always trust the dots, baby. This is the good stuff. Today I'm gonna talk about why I prefer Panasonic cells over every other. I recently did a very long video where I talk about some of the biggest battery companies in the world and why I still prefer Panasonic. And it's not because Panasonic is made in Japan. It's not because Panasonic never had any large recall. It's not that Panasonic is the only well-known brand that never had any serious fires. The reason I believe Panasonic is the best is because they have actually proven to me that their stuff, it lasts, and it lasts for long. No other cell that we encountered have managed to retain as much capacity as the Panasonic cells does. And before you, I lay some of the proof that we've seen. This is not the only battery. This is one of the absolute first e-bike batteries in Europe made with cylindrical 18650 cells. And this is a Promowec. This battery is what made Promowec a superstar on the European front and one of the biggest e-bike companies in Europe. This battery may not look as much. We usually call it the brick because it's very, very ugly. But back then you didn't have Shanshan plastic and Renchen making Tesla looking battery cases with indicators and stuff like that. All they could do was find someone to manufacture an aluminum profile and then custom made these two plastic pieces. One actually had a light on it. That is very impressive for such an old e-bike. A battery does not need to have an integrated light. You can have a light on the actual e-bike, but having it here is quite handy. And they also had an on-off switch and a 3-pin XLR. This is also why I like XLR so much, because I know they stand the test of time, but they have these weather plugs which makes them very robust. And you can see there is a lot of rust on these screws and probably some on the connectors, but it still lasts. That is just so impressive. So I'm gonna open this up and show you how I open this up, because it's actually pretty hard. The first time I saw this was like, what the fuck is that? And starting fiddling like, is that a hex? Oh, it must be a Torx. But then I discovered something called poppets, and I had to get a machine for closing poppets, because it's the only way you can do it in this case. I haven't found a good way of opening them up, but I'm gonna show you my brute force way of doing it. And it involves 650 watts of variable speed power, made in China. Yeah, I love this drill bit, they can open anything up. And I know from experience that the battery is down here, so you won't be drilling into a battery anytime soon. And there will be small metal fragments in here, but these are made to be impossible to open without breaking them, I think. This can't be the best way, but it's the only way I know. And you get these little mini frisbees. Let's see. But not too much made it inside. And I still have to deal with them being stuck here. But here you can see, and it's very close in design to the later cases, they just made it a little thinner. And the funny thing, it's amazing, this battery is like 13 to 15 years old. That's like 150 years in battery years. That's hella impressive. That is still alive. These have Panasonic cells with date code, so I can check the actual date. And I can also test some of them. And I'm not saying this is the best battery in the world. As you can see, the only thing holding this battery in place is this hot glue, and it's just on one side. And this battery pack was loose in the case. Here they have a little dot, and you can see it had been damaged in the heat shrink tubing. So I'm not saying build like this, I'm saying that even if you build batteries like this, which looks like a do-it-yourselfer has done it, because Promowake was a do-it-yourselfer back then. They had to do it yourself, even though this one is 15 years old and not the best build. But it still works and it still lasts. CDR 1850 CF10S3P. Yeah, that's also interesting with this. They built this battery pack with a space for 40 cells, but they never made 10S4P. They actually used 10 black spacers in here instead, which is just so weird. You build a battery for 40 cells and you never put 40 cells in it. But they were quick to change the design once the money got rolling. But just because I think this battery is so amazing does not mean everything Promowake sells is absolute perfection. They actually stopped using Panasonic after this battery. Maybe they made a few other ones with Panasonic, but they were quick to switch to cheaper suppliers, and their batteries do not last as long anymore. Only these really old ones. I was so impressed the first time I saw this. The customer came in with a 10-year-old Danish battery, and it was still working. Just a little lower capacity than I want. Okay, and the e-bike is still working as well. Amazing stuff, these early e-bikes. Here you can see, that's not cells, that's just black spacers. Totally unnecessary black spacers. In here you actually have the oldest version of the, not the oldest, but the oldest one I've seen in production e-bikes, which are the dotted lines instead of stripes. And it's not a rust bucket, and it actually looks pretty good. This was not made, it was developed by Promowake, but it was not manufactured by Promowake. I'm 100% sure that this was actually manufactured by Porta Power in Hong Kong. They were also one of the first battery manufacturers to use Panasonic or even cylindrical cells at all. And they have identical setups, but this might be one of the first OEM batteries for a European customer. I just love tearing these apart and hoping they don't not break, so I don't get any glue on my shiny Panasonic cells. Yeah, I'm already seeing the date code. 2008, August. So we're talking 14 years going 15. Yeah, baby, that's the shit. And it's fully alive. I'm not gonna capacity test the whole battery, but this one I'm actually gonna disassemble and test some of the cells because it was so long ago. And here the glue actually is sticking, because hot glue does not like varied temperatures. If it's hot and cold, like outside, it usually breaks. Here you can definitely see why I think it's a Porta Power battery. If you ever open a Porta Power battery, you know this is how they like to design it. Especially this wire configuration, dual temp sensors. It could also be Philion, but I think many of the early Philion batteries might be made by Porta Power. And they have these very large resistors that get super hot, like 60 degrees. They're only using 10 wires, so we cannot check all the cells at the same time. No dead cells here, mama. Just the best stuff. Medium boys. Okay, there's a little unbalance, but there's a big chance she hasn't used this battery in years. But still, very, very, very good voltage. And that's why I trust only Panasonic. They're the only company that has proven that your batteries can last, not even 10 years. Today I found out they last for up to 15 years. This is, however, their older chemistry called CGR. The same cells that were in the Tesla Roadster. Their newest chemistry, NCR, have not proven that to me. But I believe the new chemistry is based out of this and more like a rebrand. But when they figured out they can do much more capacity, they just switched to all new names. Always trust the dots, baby. This is the good stuff.